up and going. But with that, we'll go ahead and get started. I want to welcome you all to a regularly scheduled city council meeting for the governing body of Spring Hill, Kansas on Thursday, August 22nd. And with that, we have Pastor Sarah Terrell here to do the invocation. If you guys could stand with me if you're able.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for your presence here tonight. And I just pray over this council that you would give them wisdom, that you would give them understanding and discernment. I pray just for your peace to be here. I pray for your blessing over the city of Spring Hill. I pray for your kingdom to come and your will to be done here as it is in heaven. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Deputy Madam Clerk, if you could please take the roll.
Mr. Peel,
Here.
Mr. Young,
Here.
Mr. Van Houten,
Here.
Ms. Feeback.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Obviously, you guys can tell Mr. Van Houten is calling in via phone, so he will be with us online. With that, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. We did have a request from the applicant to remove item number 4 and place it on the September 26th City Council agenda. So other than that, are there any other requested changes? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second. I got a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Next, we'll move on to citizen participation. This is a time when the public can come in and speak about just about anything they would like to talk about. We just ask that when you step up to the microphone, you state your name and your address. And the first person on the list is John Waterman.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor, council members, appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. I did come prepared to talk about item number 4 just a little bit. I still will, but I kind of have an overall theme that kind of is surrounding, citizen participation and how we kind of move forward as a community and, truly have a voice. So one of the, Pat Burton talked to him, a while ago, and one of the big points he makes, is that citizens need to be involved. And during the comprehensive planning, some of the meetings, there just wasn't much citizen participation. And, to truly kind of move forward, we need to have that citizen participation, and we need to be able to have a comprehensive plan that, truly, defines how we want, the city to grow. And when kind of seeing the development of this planned rezoning from the kind of 2010 comprehensive plan, the decision to rezone it before the newly drafted or newly released 2024 comprehensive plan seemed premature to me because it's like, well, if we're going through this planning cycle, why wouldn't we wait for that before we enacted this change? And I'm sure it has to do with timing. Developer comes forward, we have to move forward, but we're so close, why not, pause and take the citizens' comments to heart, the planning commission's comments to heart. It's been before them twice, they've denied it. So I'm not quite sure what else we're, kind of waiting for there. Anyway, have some time to, think about, other things before September 26th, obviously, but would like to, kind of make sure that we're thinking about that, carefully and taking time to really truly make the right decision. Regarding the comprehensive plan, I know it's been, delayed, a little bit, which I think is great. No need to just rush it out there and get something wrong. This may be, a prime example to kind of fit into that. Secondly, taxes, another, hot topic, obviously, for citizens, for everyone, in the community. We, have to be careful. I mean, you combine, higher taxes with decisions, like this rezoning, and it makes citizens wonder, what truly drives the city to kind of move forward. And I know there's a balance to everything, right? You have to, can't always just decide what to, how to move forward. But I just, urge everyone to take the time and make the right decision. And I hope with the decision, we truly understand, because the Planning Commission has been pretty clear in why they don't want it to become or to change from a planned district to just a straight zoning district. I would truly urge a very intentional and careful response if it is chosen to be overruled and approved. Because there's some specific things that have been identified as reasons to why it shouldn't go forward. So, with that, I expect that in the comprehensive plan that's forthcoming, this decision to not move the zoning to an R4 district is in that comprehensive plan, and it would be a shame to change it late in the process. So anyway, I thank you for your time and for listening to me, and I do realize I did not state my name or an address, but John Waterman, 2110 West 186th Terrace. So thank you and good evening. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving us that info at the end. Appreciate that. Next person we have on the agenda is, or on the list, I'm sorry, is Rodolfo Arevalo. Got it close. Not perfect, but close.
Getting closer. I just had a few comments in relationship to the hearing item, which is the revenue neutral discussion. And obviously, I'm very interested in not.
Do you want, sorry to interrupt you, do you want to wait until we open the public
Oh,
hearing?
sure.
and do
Yeah, I
it
was
then?
thinking it might be better
Okay.
then.
Might be better then, that way it's inside
Okay.
that public hearing.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yep.
Gives them another chance to get.
Yep,
Yep.
Gives them another chance to get.
yep. We'll try harder next. Not sure how to pronounce the last name. It's Wayne Benai? Bennett. Well, those are T's. My bad.
Sorry. Left-handed.
Good evening, Wayne Bennett, 17119 West 197th Terrace. Came here to speak tonight about the rezoning. Only when I walked in the door did I learn that it was moved to September 26th. I'm not sure why. I heard that it was because the city council wants more information. Is that fair? Is that true?
Somewhat, usually I don't respond to this, but the applicant, the one that the developer requested to remove it and move it to the meeting in September 26th. So that was their
also-
choice request of us to move it.
Yeah, and all I can do is continue to express my frustration. The city planning commission didn't shoot it down twice; they shut it down 3 times. Back in 2019, we shot it down. More recently, the planning commission denied it. They passed 3, if not 4, other planning or zoning changes on behalf of this developer, except that one came in front of you guys. You guys sent it back to them because you wanted more information. Correct me if I'm wrong, but staff told the planning commission that more information was not necessary because after all, it was just a planning commission. Now, I might be remembering that incorrectly, but that's how I remember it. And one of the commissioners was what I thought was bold enough and smart enough to say, you know what? Why are we revisiting this again? We did this in 2019 and we denied it. So why are we here again? And that was the question that I kept asking myself, and then a lot of my neighbors too. So now we're revisiting for the third time. I don't know what more information that you need. One of you said at the last city council meeting that you put a lot of faith in the planning commission and their expertise. They've denied it twice. So do you trust them or do you not trust them? It's frustrating because now we can't even hear you guys vote on it tonight. We got to come back again September 26th. I'll limit my remarks to that. I continue to have concerns about the infrastructure. It's not just, and I've said this before, that, I ride my bike on 199th Street and I'm scared to death. But I'm a man and relatively good health, but you can't even have a family go down 199th if they want to go down there with their kids on a sidewalk and get some ice cream. We want development. We want multifamily, or not multifamily. We want affordable housing, right? We want businesses in there. It's not that we're anti-development. There's just not a need for that in that area. One of you said that we need apartments. We don't necessarily disagree with you on that, but you've got that whole corridor going down Webster Street that's already designated for, 600 units? Don't hold me to that number, but there's an area that's already earmarked for that. And finally, I don't know if the developer is here. I've never seen him at any meetings. Maybe he is here. He sends his engineer that I know of. My understanding, or my opinion, is that he's gonna rezone as much as he can and then never develop anything, sell it off to the highest bidder. He's gonna sell apartment buildings to this, like he did on that Woodland project. I have concerns about that, the infrastructure, and why we continue to keep kicking this back and forth. Let's just kill it and be done with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's all we had on the list. Is there anyone else that would like to step up and speak? Mr. Peterman?
Bill Peterman, 19431 West 200th Street. I don't want to get into that because you're not going to vote on it tonight. But I want someone to tell me, where has Tom Smith built apartments or houses and developed, or just developed the land and then sold it? Where has he built? He's a developer. He gets everything passed his way and then he's out. The rental homes next to Brookwood Farms, he's the one that brought that on. He's the one that passed everything out. The other thing is, where's the sidewalk out there along 199th that he's supposed to have? You made Brookwood Farms put it in. Has Tom, even after Tom leaves, he's got a hold on you? I don't understand this. The other thing is it better to ask for forgiveness or ask for permission? Which way do you guys do that? That's kind of hard for me, because we have a development here in Spring Hill that put up a wrought iron fence and covered up the sidewalk, which is against the rules, your rules, my rules, and was told, no, you can't do that. What they did it for was, and I'm just guessing, they did it so that they got one way in so they can get the people's names so they get part of the real estate fees. Now, here's the other thing. If there's sidewalk across the street so those kids can walk across the street, it's a safety issue. If one kid gets hurt, it's you guys' fault because you passed it off. You said, oh no. So now he's probably gonna come back and want to get permission to have that. Where's the fine? If I do something wrong, am I not fined? What's the fine for something like that? I think it's around $500, someone said. Has he paid it? No, he hadn't paid it. That's what he thinks of you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, we'll go ahead and close citizen participation at this time and move on to the public hearing. This time we'll open the public hearing about the revenue neutral rate. And Mrs. Dunn, you have the floor if you'd like to say anything.
I'll just make a couple of quick comments. We are doing a hearing, for the public to give their input on, whether or not the city should exceed the revenue neutral rate. I would just like to remind the public that we are not setting a mill levy tonight. That will not happen until the end of September when the budget is approved. You're getting input and deciding whether or not you're gonna pass a resolution telling the counties that we can approve, or we can potentially approve a budget, but beyond the revenue neutral rate. The amount we posted in the paper would be a rate of 26.25 mils, and the rate provided to us by Johnson County was 26.026. So anyway, that's what we're here for the public to give their input on tonight. But we are not passing a budget or mill levy.
Thank you. With that, we'll open the public hearing at this time. And the first person on that list is Charles Pope. And same thing with the last one, if you could state your name and address when you speak.
Name is Charles Pope. I live at 19735 Barstow Street, Spring Hill, Kansas, Prairie Ridge. And I got this in the mail here a couple days ago and looked over it. And the way I understand it is that you want to go past what is the neutral, what it was last year. Is that kind of correct? Can I say that's right? You don't know?
Well, this is to see if we want to try to exceed that revenue neutral rate or not.
Okay.
So you're on the right track.
Okay, well, I would like to tell you about my taxes. I brought my list, that they send out and everything. Last year, my taxes went up 15.38% in 1 year. The year before, it was 9.14. The year before that, it was 7.63. A total of 3 years, 35.54% for 3 years increase in taxes. And we're looking at another increase on top of that. So if it goes to the same tax rate as it went last year, 15.38, we're considering going higher than that. Is that what I'm understanding? We're gonna go more than 15.
Rhonda, do you want to explain it a little bit?
We're actually just, has no relationship to last year. It is, they calculate a rate that it would take for the city to get exactly the same taxes that they did last year. But it is not directly related to your last year's amount. You have to remember that there is the mill levy portion as well as the assessed value portion, and the city does not assess the value of your home. So in your 15.38 or this 35% over time could be a combination of the value of your home changing
Exactly.
plus whatever mill levy. The city, I'd have to look, I don't think in this period of time they have moved the mill levy very much.
The city has not,
They have not.
but are they planning on moving it in the future? Or
They're-
they could?
They could, they're considering that.
That's what they're considering?
Yes,
That's what we're
you are
talking
on
about
track.
right now.
Yep, you are on track.
So
It's
they're
just,
considering changing the mill levy from 26 point, whatever you guys said,
right?
to a 27?
No, the current rate is 23 mils, and they have a cap that it could be 26.25. They
So it
could
should
move
go
it 3
three-
mils.
3
It
mils.
could. It could.
Over 10%,
Yes,
correct?
it could. Mhm.
I would like to speak against it, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Adam Nelson.
Good evening, I'm Adam Nelson, 19709 Barstow Street. So I came with a whole bookload of stuff to talk about Article 4, but since we're not going to do that, I guess we'll talk about taxes, which is equally fun. So I'm just going to point out what everyone else says. Is, we have a lot of taxes in this area. We're in the top 15 for the entire state of Kansas, and I get it. We're a small town. We're growing. We're undergoing a lot of those growing pains because we need to get the extra tax revenue from, all these new subdivisions and stuff in so we can start actually making some money for the city. But one thing I want to point out here is that most of us here, probably you guys included, or at least for the people that haven't been here, more than 10 years, we moved here to get away from some of the taxes. I lived in Overland Park before this, and we moved out here to get away from paying, $15,000 a year in property taxes. That was in Blue Valley Southwest School District. House was a little bit larger, but we moved out here to save some money. And now the property taxes for my house, which aren't valued nearly as much as it was in Overland Park, are the same, which I know, again, as we just discussed, that has nothing to do specifically with the city, but also with the school district. What I think we have going on here is kind of an issue with a lot of talking heads, right? So we have you guys imposing your mill. You guys are trying to run the entire city on your budget. But we also have the school district, we have the county, we have fire, we have police, we have all these other instances where these other councils and committees are not talking to you guys, and vice versa. We're not communicating. The school board, for instance, we have the highest school district tax rate in the state of Kansas. Like #1. And I know that's not under your guys' control, but that also has to be taken into consideration when we're going to adjust the mill rates just for the city itself, right? Because that's, it's gonna put a burden on all of us, and we're looking at it as a whole. Most people look at this as a whole. They don't break it out into how many, different sections there are to our tax bills. And so you guys automatically get the blame, which I feel is unfair, right? But being as you guys are in this position that you are, you also have the power to do something about it, to push back on some of these other committees, school board, the county, push back on the county and say, we need a break here. You guys are killing us out here. We're trying to grow, we're trying to bring people in, but instead we're getting the opposite effect. We're driving people away. And then we also need to think, what are some of the things that we can do to help improve, the tax revenue here? Not just bringing in new homes. We have subdivisions going in all over the place. But what do we do when the market stales out? Which it will. It's inevitable. It happens. It ebbs and flows. So what are we going to do then? We have no form of formal tax revenue at that point, right? We don't have a lot of sales tax revenue because we don't have a lot of businesses in Spring Hill. We're going to get a truck stop, from what I hear. That's going to generate some revenue, but it's not going to be enough to keep the city afloat, especially as things grow, roads start falling apart. I say that we're going to need to think maybe a little bit bigger. We're going to think we need to shove some commercial in before we get the residential there. I know that most of the people here would prefer to shop in Spring Hill if we had the stuff available. Like we finally got Moody's Hardware, right? I'd rather go there and pay a couple more dollars for things than go to Home Depot, which I'm sure most of us would. But it's just a matter of having that stuff available, and to keep these businesses afloat, we need to have a little bit more of a variety. But that's a double-edged sword. You bring in the business, you also don't want to solely depend on them to cover your tax burden. So it's a fine line, and I know it puts you guys in a tough position, but that's something that I think that we need to consider first before raising the mill levy. We need to cut the fat as we see it right now. We need to prioritize things. We need to live like paupers, maybe for a few years to get our budgets in line. Let the infrastructure, or not the infrastructure, but let the citizen base grow a little bit more, and then consider that. So, sorry. I honestly would have had a lot more prepared had I known we'd be talking about taxes instead of art zoning. But I'll see you guys in September. So thank you.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's it with the list, but I know Mr. Rodolfo Arevalo said he wanted to speak, so now's your time. And anyone else that would like to after him.
Rodolfo Arevalo, 19419 West 200th Street. I'll be real short, actually. I realize that one of the reasons why we are considering increasing the revenue neutral rate is because of the desire to improve 199th Street, which I agree that it needs to be improved if the developments that want to go on that particular road are going to be successful. At the same time, I do have to look at my tax, and as I looked at the document I got last week, I estimate that my city property cost will increase 29%, which is a lot. And my assumption is that a great number of other citizens have that similar thing is going to happen. Okay? And it's interesting because when I look at the overall increase from all of my taxes from the county, it's only 14.1. So it's very clear that the city is really surpassing what all the other jurisdictions are raising in terms of revenue. Needless to say, an overall increase of about $1,000 is what I'm going to see for next year if everything goes according to what's published. So I would ask you, having attended a number of your work sessions, that we seriously consider reducing the bonding of the 199th Street development by at least $2 million. And I think you're very well aware that there are those kinds of dollars available through at least 3 of your reserves that you'll have next year. So I plead that you give us a slight break by using that approach. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else that would like to speak? Come on up.
I will be very brief. Charles Morse, 18452 South Ridgeview. I just wanted to encourage everyone in the audience to go to the Board of County Commissioners meetings related to our tax increases, because it's the county assessor's office and appraisals that are driving all of our tax increases. And the population of Johnson County in the last 10 years has increased from about 525,000 people to 650,000, which is about a 19% increase in population. And in that same time, your county's budget has more than doubled, and it's now $1.8 billion. So I think that's the biggest place to start, where all the spending is happening. And I think the city council has an opportunity to express their dissatisfaction with the county with specifically in terms of our willingness or unwillingness to support the $10 million homeless shelter that they are pursuing and wanting our city and our city residents to help pay for. So that's an opportunity to tell them no. And everyone here should know that there are only 2 county commissioners who are actively speaking out against all of these tax increases and budget increases. So I encourage you to support those commissioners and express your opinions to the board. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can't turn around.
Anyone else? If not, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this time and move on to the consent agenda. These are items that the staff considers to be routine maintenance, but if anyone or any of the staff here, governing body, has any questions, now would be your time. If not, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Next, we'll move on to formal council action. We scrapped number 4, so we'll move on to number 5. Consider appeal of planning commission decision for model home fence exception. Mr. Burton, you have the floor. Or Mr. Lau, either one.
Guys, yeah, I'm gonna steal this one from Pat, if that's all right.
Go for it.
Sure. So a few months ago, we changed our fence code, as you might recall. Both of the changes that were before you and you approved are kind of what are implicated here. So the first is that we changed our code to allow front yard fencing just for model home complexes. That was something that brings us in line with some of the other larger municipalities in the area, and it's something that some developers have been asking for around town. So we offered to consider it, and it seemed like an okay idea if you guys approved that. The other change that was made at that time is to set out a specific procedure for granting other types of exceptions under the fence code. So state law allows people to come to our Board of Zoning Appeals and request a variance, which is a very strict, hard thing to get. An exception is something that we're allowed to do under our zoning code, which kind of lessens the burden for people to request some break from our zoning code. It has to be very specific. So we only allow exceptions for this fence code. For the record, if you want to add more, you can do that. If you want to take it away, you can. But that's something that we're allowed as a city to put in there. So our fence code allows for exceptions. There's 5 considerations that are in your packet, the planning commission went through. In this case, we have a developer, it's the Dayton Creek subdivision. They have a front yard fence going across their model home, the row of model homes on Thieden. It's right across the street from the school. They have requested an exception to go beyond their front yard and across the sidewalk. So as it currently sits, do we have any pictures up here to scroll through? Or? It's okay if we don't. The fence currently goes across the sidewalk and cuts that off. There is a gate on either side. My understanding is that code is available to neighbors and has been given to some, but the fence code does not allow fences to go across sidewalks. So that is one of the things they're requesting an exception for. The other complicating factor to this is that an exception alone doesn't allow a gate or a fence to go across the sidewalk. So outside of our zoning code, which is chapter 17, and chapter 14, which is section 14.320, subsection B, forbids any encroachment across the sidewalk. So this fence goes there. So granting an exception here doesn't necessarily bring that fence into compliance. You would have to go an additional step and work out some sort of encroachment agreement with these developers, which would be another thing I bring you at some point after we've worked that through legally, if you guys are okay with that. But right now it's just a kind of, this is the first step of, do you want to grant that exception? The developer is here tonight to speak about it. There was some pretty good conversation at the Planning Commission. I'm happy to discuss any questions you have. Otherwise, the fence kind of is where it is. I'll let the developer speak to why it's there and how long they intend to keep it up. But it's not there permanently, so otherwise, happy to answer anything.
I just want to know why, so maybe
Yeah,
we get the
developer
developer.
would like, yeah.
Yeah, we'll let the developer give a presentation. Any other before I step aside? All right, Mr. Holland, you're up.
Good evening. Do you have slides, please?
From your last presentation?
Yeah. I was hoping you'd have that ready. It's hard to visualize without pictures, so assumed you'd have this. But good evening, my name's Curtis Holland. I'm an attorney. I'm legal counsel for the developer of Dayton Creek subdivision. I represent PV Investments, the owner and developer of the subdivision. And I'm also here on behalf of the broker company that's selling the homes and where the model home row is located and where this fence is located. Thank you very much. So here to talk about the fence. It's a temporary fence in front of the model homes. I'll just go through the slide presentation quickly, hopefully. Certainly, if you have any questions along the way, stop me and ask. Entrance to the subdivision, I think you all know where it is, know it very well. On the slide in front of you is the outline in the blue. Those lots that have the blue lines around them, those are the model home lots that we're talking about. It is across the street from the school, Dayton Creek Elementary School. I don't know how long the fence has been there. I think it's been there not quite a year. But many months. It's actually sort of the second iteration of our model home, and the arrangement we have in terms of where the fence is located across the sidewalk is the exact same as it was when we started this subdivision almost 5 years ago. But it was located originally down at the beginning of the subdivision off of Thieden Street. I'd point if you have a mouse, but if you can visualize coming in off 191st Street there, going to Thieden Street. Thank you. Right here at Thieden Street. And just right here, this used to be the model home row. There are 5 homes there and exact same setup with the fence crossing over the sidewalk. It's a security issue more than anything. It protects both the broker and the visitors to the community and helps actually keep, there's been some issues with some model homes that aren't necessarily fenced in. There's a home, model home on lot number 111. So my Wheeler Homes, it's had some break-ins and people have walked out of that model home with TVs and so forth. So there's been some crime in the area, and more than anything, the fence can help deter some of that and can help deter issues. I provided a packet to you all, and within the packet there is some links to some articles that describe some, unfortunately, some things that have happened, some incidences and attacks on real estate brokers. It's actually a dangerous profession. They are showing homes without protection, and some bad things has happened to people. In fact, there was a story today that described a real estate agent that was murdered up in Toronto, and it was because of it took place during a real estate transaction. I don't know that it had anything to do with what we're talking about tonight with regard to a fence, but there are safety issues with real estate brokers and agents showing homes to people. And so the fence does provide some protection for that. But anyway, this is the location of the fence. So I just wanted to show it to you where it was. Those are the homes. Again, close, more of a zoomed up picture of them. Those two lots that have the green stars on them are model homes that are going to be sold here. And I'm telling you that because we're going to hear, well, after November 1, the fence in front of those homes will be removed because those homes are going to be sold, or it'll be after at least November 1. I don't know when that fence will be removed. The other lot that's to the south would be this one here. That fence would also be removed just because it's separated from the other three homes to the north. So towards the end of the year, the plan would be, and the reason it's November 1 is because Parade of Homes is coming up, and it starts in September, I believe, ends in October. And our arrangement with the model home, the builders who own the model homes, is that they need to keep, we would like to keep that fence in place through at least the end, till November 1 or so, depending on what you guys have to say about it. But again, the fencing will be removed from those southern three lots, and the intent is to keep the fence for the northern three lots for a period of about a year or a year and a half. The time period would then give us time to start. We're starting phase 8, which is this, you can see up here, that's the 8th plat. We think the road construction will be started in spring of next year. And so we hope to have some homes being built in the future to the north here, and we can move the model home row up there. And now that we know the issue with the fencing, we're not going to do this again. We'll have to do something different. But so our request tonight is for a temporary fence. There's a picture of the fence. There's the sales office right here. Some people commented that, well, the fence doesn't enclose the sales office. Well, it wasn't necessarily intended to. You go in through the sales office, and one of the things that you would do as a real estate agent, and I don't know if anybody in here is a real estate agent, but you would get the names of the people who come in, who visit you, and get ID on who these folks are when they come in to see you. They get screened a little bit, and then they could come in through this door over here, and they could go visit all 6 of those homes, walk down the sidewalk without having any fear, with complete access. If you took away the fence, you would have, and that's what would happen here. We would take the fence down. We wouldn't relocate it. We wouldn't move it. We would just take the fence down. But then that just opens those homes up. They're unprotected. People can come in and steal things if they want to. Our particular broker, Lisa Rader, if you've been there, you know her. She's great, but one of the other model homes that I mentioned that was separated, she's actually found people in those homes. Construction workers have been in those homes when she's gone down there. They're not, if there was a fence there, it would help prevent that from happening. It's kind of scary at night when it's dark. So that's really the reason for the fence, is the security issue. Just more pictures of what the fence looks like. There is a gate. Oh, this keeps going so fast. Sorry about that. There's a gate on the ends of the fences. And the reason that's important is that There are some folks, there's some additional homes that live, there's 4 homes to the south that aren't part of the model home row, and they all have access to this gate code. So when the gates open there, they have access through the gate with their code. We've discussed having that gate open, because I know this is important. We've talked about having access to the sidewalk during the school hours when the kids are out, and we could have those gates open during those school hours so it wouldn't prevent any kids from not being able to use the sidewalk. That's just how it's bolted to the sidewalk. There's some letters that are in your packet from the three of the homeowners to the south that are okay with the fence being there. They all have codes to the gate. So they're okay with it. And I wanted to make one more point. I know that we don't necessarily like to block off sidewalks. I understand that reason. We want pedestrian people to have safe places to walk, right? And I understand that. But I would say this, that Thieden Street is a collector road, and there are sidewalks on both sides of the street. And so even though you wouldn't necessarily have unfettered access along those couple of homes here on the north end, which we're talking about, these model homes, you do have a sidewalk across the street, and that's the same scenario or situation it is through the rest of the subdivision. All the other local streets here all only have a sidewalk on one side, and so there's ability to have somebody walk on a sidewalk on Thieden Street, even though this small portion of it would be blocked off for, again, about a year to a year and a half is what we'd be asking for. We understand that we might need to, or would need to, enter into an encroachment agreement. I've actually worked on encroachment agreements in other cities, and so we think that could be something that could get worked through. But we're asking for consideration to keep this little section of fence there for the next year to a year and a half, and hopefully you'll agree to do that. If you don't, we're just going to take the fence down, and it'll be wide open spaces for folks to come in, and we don't really want that. We want to try to protect against that. But anyway, thank you for your time, and happy to answer any questions if you have any.
I had some questions.
Yes.
So I agree with the fence about having it and your safety and all that. My whole thing is why can't you just move the fence back and it's like all or nothing? I don't.
So the reason is, oh, I went the wrong direction.
I mean, I get it's bolted to the ground.
What happens, what would normally happen in the situation you described is you would put, let's say the fence on the other side of the sidewalk so it's not encumbering it or
Yes.
blocking it off. Then you'd have those homes, you'd have to build sidewalks between the homes to give them an access for people to walk without having to walk through the mud and the grass and so forth. They'd be able to walk on a sidewalk. That's the way a lot of the other subdivisions have done it. Some subdivisions in Johnson County are just like this. But and besides, it's only going to be a short term for a year to a year and a half or so. The home builders, they don't want to pitch in to build sidewalks between those homes. They would probably just let it go.
Okay. So I guess I don't see, well, I was just trying to figure out, I mean,
yeah.
so it sounds like the builders need to do that. I don't agree with the fence being over the sidewalk. A rule's a rule.
And I was
gonna get my vote on.
I was gonna echo the same thing. I completely see the need for a fence, but I think they absolutely should not be covering the sidewalk. I think whether there's a sidewalk on the other side of the street or not, I think that's a sidewalk that kids should have access to and from school. They shouldn't have to go across the street just to walk to school.
But just
there's no reason why they couldn't have put that. I mean, it looks like it has pretty good grass. They could walk across the grass to that house and the next house.
Yeah, except in the wintertime when it's snowy and wet and all that.
Build a temporary sidewalk with rocks or something.
On the one point, there's no school children using the sidewalk.
Yeah, there's a fence.
That's not why they're not using it. That's not why they're not.
You got a gated fence with a code on it.
No, there's no children that live in those homes over here, and the sidewalk stops right here.
These homes.
The sidewalk stops right there.
This is directly adjacent to an elementary school.
And there's
You're telling
lots of
us
homes
that
south
kids
of
aren't going to use that sidewalk.
They have a sidewalk to go home or for whatever they're doing. They have a sidewalk on the west side of Thieden Street, and there's no real reason for them to use that sidewalk.
What about all the people that live in all these homes in here? We're saying that they're not walking up that direction?
But there's no reason they can't use the sidewalk on the other side of the street.
Right, but if I'm walking on that sidewalk already and then the gate's there, let's say I can't remember the code or whatever, I'm gonna have to cross the street and then you get into another safety issue. So
Just-
basically, you're not gonna get my vote for
Or
it.
does,
I appreciate that. I understand I'm not getting it, but it's the same situation on every other street in Dayton Creek.
or does each kid that's walking it, I mean, I know if I gave my 7-year-old a code to things, she'd probably forget it. You know,
We're not giving the school kids codes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We would
so
leave
the
the
kids-
gates open.
Yeah, so the kids will.
Somebody probably will in the neighborhood. My question is for security, if security is the issue, you don't have back fences though, so people can't walk around and get to the houses from the backyard?
I mean, the doors are locked and I suppose they could break in from the backside.
I would think that you'd wanna break in from the back.
It's a 4-foot fence
Yeah,
too.
that's-
Like, I could probably jump over it.
Yeah,
I've been to many neighborhoods that have it. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
People just do it. Yeah, like I said, we have the rule. I would say we probably just need to get it removed next time before you. Put
And
it
next,
up.
yeah, next time if they want to put it, you
Just
know,
let us
on the
know
other
and
side of the
we can make a
sidewalk, or
decision then, but yeah,
they'll
this
put
one
some
would
gravel
be
in
tough.
and have a little gravel pathway, or however they want to do it.
Yep, I mean, I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I get it. I mean, like I said, I've been through many that have the gate or the fence like this, but I don't know if those cities have that same rule or not. But yeah. So
Okay, thanks.
all right, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So on this, since it's an appeal from the planning commission, there would just be a motion to, you can either uphold the planning commission decision or deny the request. They would do the same thing, but, so
So what's on here is the
be a motion to, deny the exception application.
yeah that one. Okay. I move to deny exception application EXC-24-1 and direct the applicant to remove the fence within 14 days and repair and replace any damage to public rights of way.
I second it. Oh, sorry, Brian.
You're good.
Got a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of resolution number 2024-R- what's that final number on there? I'm missing it for some reason. 10. Sorry, guys. All right, we'll try that again. Consider approval of resolution number 2024-R-10 to levy a property tax exceeding the revenue neutral rate. And Mrs. Dunn, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time. This is a step in the process. It's required by statute for us to consider whether or not we're going to exceed the revenue neutral rate, which is provided by Johnson County for both counties for Spring Hill. And we followed the process that we needed to. We've given the proper notice and we've held the hearing. So now you can consider the resolution. What I wanted to say, make a comment about the folks that came up here, how I was really impressed, to be honest, that they were well-informed, they understand the process. Doesn't mean they agree with it, they're certainly welcome to their opinion, but I'm hoping that the process is getting better and better and working better for the citizens, seems to show in their comment, which I appreciate. So tonight we're asking, well, there's two parts here. Again, we're not passing a budget tonight, we're not setting a mill levy. We're just discussing whether or not we'll exceed the revenue neutral rate. The operating budget itself, you gave us the direction that you did not want to raise the mill levy on the operating budget. And that is the direction that we're working under, and it is our plan to provide a budget at roughly 23 mills, which would be similar to last year. And you know how I feel about those 3 extra decimal points because Johnson County controls that, we don't. And so I'm working to make sure we don't exceed exceed the 23 mills as we have been directed. The second part to this is whether we're going to go beyond that 23 mills and raise a mill levy to fund projects. And the first project on that list is the expansion improvement of 199th Street. We're also working on the signalization at 191st and 169. And then along about 2028, somewhere in there, the next project that'll come up is the improvement of 207th Street. So in some of this other discussion tonight, and the neighborhoods that we were working on, looking for development, where these are steps that would be made to improve the infrastructure around that part of our town. Be a great focus area for development. But with that takes some commitment to debt, and in doing that, we would need to raise the mill levy in order to pay for that debt. We set a rate at your direction again at 26.25 would be the overall cap. It is my recommendation tonight that you pass a resolution saying we will exceed the revenue neutral rate from Johnson County up to that cap of 26.25. And I would remind you, which I don't need to, but the public as well, that even though you set that resolution at 26.25, you can approve any budget up to that point. You cannot go beyond the cap. So if tonight you vote in favor of the resolution and you set the cap at 26.25, we can't approve a budget at 26, at 15, at 19, at whatever number you feel is best for the budget that we propose. So it doesn't mean we're raising taxes. It means we've given ourselves the room to do that if we feel that's the best decision. Can I answer any questions? Have I not covered something with you about the revenue neutral rate? I will point out the revenue neutral rate from Johnson County is 26.026. And we are proposing a cap of 26.25. Of course, we will bring you a budget meeting the direction that you give us.
The only comment I have is that I believe that the R&R number that we got from Johnson County this year does not accurately reflect what a true R&R is for us because of the changes that we made with the fire district, consolidating, all that. So I see 26.026 as not a correct number. I think our actual R&R, by my rough calculations, is closer to about 21 mils. So even if we were to be under or below the 26.026 number, it's not R&R. And for us to try and say or pass off that it is a dishonest lie. And I'm not going to tell the public that that is what it is. So we can, I think R&R is just completely irrelevant for us this year. I think we agree as a council that having a truly R&R budget is not realistically obtainable for us. And so for us to even monkey around with this 26.026 number or treat it like it's a real R&R is not fair to the public.
For the record, the R&R rate for 2024 was about 19, I'm going to say 19.2, just rounding it off, but it was 19.2. So that the public is aware, I did contact Johnson County and had a conversation with them about their calculation, and I didn't agree with it. They followed statute, they said, and so if they followed statute, we can't unfollow statute.
It does meet the statute.
Yes, it does.
It does meet
But
the
it doesn't,
statute,
it's not logical.
and they're correct in saying that it meets the statute. But it's because we milled out close to an additional 14 mills that went straight flow through to the fire district.
Right.
Basically, we were just the provider pass-through for it. And so when you calculate R&R and to get that 26.026, you have to include all that money that we generated that we didn't spend as a city, we just passed through.
Right.
So that's why the number is wrong. And it just really bothers me. And I think we have to be incredibly careful and incredibly informative to the public about how we talk about this R&R number because it's not correct.
And I wish the county would have been willing to adjust that to what we consider the correct number.
But I also know that they have to follow the statute. And
Right.
they did follow the statute, and that's what they have to do, and that's what the law is, and that's why they gave us this bad number.
Right.
So it's on us and our intelligence and what we know with the information we have to identify and see that that number is not correct. And we've done that. So I just want to be as clear as possible that even if we were to come in at 26.026, every single one of our citizens is going to pay more in taxes.
Correct. I also think it's important to focus on what we are attempting to do, taking the term revenue neutral off of it. we plan to present you an operating budget with a flat mill levy, which is 23. And then on top of that, if we would like to do projects and fund other things, then it will need to be more than 23. And so we can call it revenue neutral, or we can call it vanilla ice cream, or whatever we want. You're setting a cap for staff to say, we will not approve anything beyond this number. And we're checking the boxes for revenue neutral for the county, for the state.
And we could easily, because our number's wrong, walk in here and say, we're gonna be revenue neutral, and we're gonna come in at 26.026.
Right.
It's revenue neutral by the statute. And we all know that's not true. So I don't think there's a lot we can do with that number. And I think would be a mistake for us to not go through the R&R process that we're setting up by passing this, because we know that number's not right.
Right. Any other comments or questions?
I don't know, Brian explained it pretty well. I wasn't for the rate that we set the first time, so I'm still in the same place. At least the revenue neutral rate is still lower than what we set it at, and I would like to be below that. So for me, nothing's really changed. I'm not a huge fan of how high we set the limit. I always try to say we need to set the limit lower so that we keep some guardrails up so we don't find things to do, because there's always something to do and there's always things that we can spend money on. So trying to limit it so that there isn't as big of an impact to people. That's kind of where my position is.
I will say, like we talked, some of these projects, I think we all agree up here that these projects are important, especially for me. For the one that's the most important in my mind is the 191st and 169 signal. I mean, that's something we've been working on for 3+ years personally, and then those of us up here. And then, it's something that we've desired as a city even longer than that. So I think that's an important project. And then the others are important projects as well. But yeah, I'm not a fan of the revenue neutral rate, not a fan of that whole process, especially not a fan this year with how they changed it. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Can I answer anything else? Anything I haven't addressed that you think I should, or anything? I didn't take anything from the comments that I felt I needed to clarify. We did that as we went. So I feel like we've addressed those things.
No, I agree with you. The comments too were all very informed and very good comments. So I appreciate everybody who came up and spoke.
Yeah, and we really do appreciate the public coming in and talking to us. I know sometimes people think we don't, but we really do. It really does help give us, kind of guide us a little bit and help give us opinions of, even though it's a small percentage, it's still an opinion from the public. So it really does help us out.
Right. And just so the public knows, at the next meeting, I think, is that September 12th? September 8th, September 12th? That will be the public hearing for the operating budget, and there'll be a notice in the paper and all those things. And so that'll be their night to give input, but we won't vote on the budget that night. We'll take that in and make adjustments if necessary, and then vote on the budget September 26th. My recommendation to you is to approve the rate that you provided earlier as the cap, and pass this resolution that sets the cap at that. Otherwise, if you choose not to follow the resolution, we will have to create a budget that falls below 26.026 mils. And you don't have to have a resolution or anything else in its place. I'm suggesting you don't limit yourself at this time, limit yourself in the budget process, and you give direction which we follow.
My personal opinion is that we set the cap at the 26.026 and then figure it out in budget. I know that's lower than what we said earlier, but I would rather set it lower, like some of the others have echoed. I'd rather set it lower and come up with money where we can come up with, make some changes and tighten our pocketbooks a little bit, rather than set it high and then, potentially use it.
Make your job as hard as we can.
I know that's what you do, Chad. You just sit at home and think of things. It's all good. This is the process that we go through, and we come in here to get direction and give you the best information you can to make decisions. So I'm good with that.
And thank you for that, by the way.
You bet.
And feel free if somebody has a different opinion than me.
I agree with your opinion. I mean, things are really tight, right now for everybody, for a number of different reasons. And, yeah, I think it's our duty that we do the best that we can, that our citizens aren't paying any more than they are.
Yeah, and I would echo that, guys. I'm sorry for not being there tonight. I've had the yucks the last couple of days, and I tested positive for COVID this morning. So over the last few months, I've talked to hundreds, probably 1,000 plus people, and every single one, I'm almost with no exceptions, it's taxes, it's property taxes. There's just, it's number one on everybody's list. I think we need to do whatever we can to minimize the impact of the tax burden on the people. And yeah, so I'm in agreement with what everybody said here.
Great.
My preference would be to stay with the 26.250. It gives us more flexibility and options, but that's just my personal preference.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
I'll move to deny the resolution 2024-R-10 authorized, or not authorizing the city of Spring Hill to levy a property tax rate exceeding the revenue neutral rate.
I second that.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah. So the motion is to deny approving exceeding the revenue neutral rate.
Yeah.
Or the fake revenue neutral rate, or
With,
whatever you
with
want
an
to call it.
incorrect revenue neutral rate.
Yes.
I don't think that's a smart decision.
I know.
That's my opinion. So I'm not going to support this, but
Yeah.
it's okay.
Any other questions or comments? If not, Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Van Houten,
Yes.
Ms. Feback,
Yes.
Mr. Peel,
No.
Mayor Berkey.
Yes.
The motion to
Sorry.
motion to deny resolution 2024-R-10 passes 4-1-0.
Thank you very much. Excuse me. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of resolution number 2024-R. I'm not sure why my last one is not showing yet. 11. Usually I always have it on here. Sorry, guys. Consider approval of resolution number 2024-R-11, a resolution providing for the range of salaries of various city officers and employees of the city of Spring Hill, Kansas, pursuant to section 1-401 of the Spring Hill Municipal Code. And Mrs. Jones, you have the floor.
Okay, good evening, council and mayor. I am here tonight, what I think is a pretty straightforward discussion for the salary resolution. But as always, I am here for any questions that you may have. But what you have in front of you is to continue the changes that we've made operationally to support the strategic direction of the city. So now that we have a city engineer on board, we are wanting to change the salary resolution to have a construction inspector position added and remove the previously added title of project inspector so that we can make sure that it accurately encompasses the responsibilities needed. Excuse me. I don't have COVID, but I just need to clear my throat.
Corona.
And when compared to the market. So obviously, I would love to recommend that the governing body approve resolution 2024-R-11 to be effective tomorrow, August 23rd. As always, you have the right to deny the resolution or to request more information. We can place it on a different agenda. Do you have any questions for me?
So it's the construction inspector that's being added and the city engineer?
Well, we already have a city engineer, but the construction inspector would be reporting to the city engineer. So
Oh,
this
okay,
is
so
like a
just changing the
continuation of,
hierarchy?
yes.
Change it from a project inspector to a construction inspector.
Yeah, okay.
What's the budgetary impact on that again, just for the public to hear?
Right, so right now, what'll happen is that the funds will be transferred from the administration department to creating a engineering department. So it'll go from one area to the other. And then as our finance director works through the budget for 2025, we'll make sure that those costs are encompassed in there to balance out for you.
So right now, we don't really know the budgetary impact of changing those two.
Do you have anything you want to add to that?
Like, is the pay gonna be different?
Yeah, did it change
I
the
assume-
range that it
I
was
assume
in?
the pay range is gonna be higher for a construction inspector versus a project inspector, but, or do they level themselves out?
The ranges themselves, they are a little bit different. The construction inspector 2 fell in line with where the project inspector was, and then the 3 was a little bit higher.
Okay.
The anticipated expenditures will be offset by the revenues coming in that it'll generate from the
Correct.
position.
Because that's taking the place of what we use Lamprey Nation
Correct.
for.
Partially, yes.
Yeah.
And I knew that, I just wanted to make sure if there was any
Right.
initial budgetary impact versus obviously we'll hopefully maybe even generate some revenue once we really get rolling, but yeah.
And this doesn't change any other ranges for the actual numbers, right?
None of the ranges are changing for anything else. This was just slotted into a different space there. The actual resolution where we will be looking at ranges and things, I'll be bringing that back for 2025 at a later time.
Okay.
Were we able to make any changes to the PD?
Well, that's part of what I'll be bringing back for 2025 is looking at the changes of the ranges for them.
Okay, so that would be, what you'll bring to us later would be hopefully some increased ranges for what those ones in the packet are?
That potentially will be a recommendation. I will not say yea or nay on that.
It's possible.
It is possible.
All right, so this is more just housekeeping than really anything else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Any other questions or comments? It's pretty straightforward, now that we know it's not really gonna affect anything, it's basically a position title. So, if not, I entertain a motion.
Move to approve resolution number 2024-R-11, providing for the range of salaries of various city officers and employees of the city of Spring Hill, Kansas pursuant to section 1-401 of the Spring Hill Municipal Code to be effective August 23rd, 2024.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of agreement with Johnson County for the co-responder program, and Chief Henson, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening. Okay, so I think we've referenced co-responder program before in the past. Johnson County started the program in 2019, and we were allowed to use the program on an emergency basis. So if we had a consumer in our community that needed a mental health provider, Johnson County would send the co-responder along with a deputy to the location to help out. What we didn't have was any kind of long-term follow-up or anything like that the program does offer. As they progressed, they started getting some grants and they added a second co-responder program under a grant. And then they opened it up for us and Gardner to be able to use the program without having a deputy come with. And then they were also able to do some of the other follow-up on some of the clients that need more long-term care. So just to give you an idea, well, first of all, this grant that they got has expired. So they are now asking for us to pay a portion of the cost. Typically, the co-responder program is paid by the agencies that have the co-responders. So there are agencies that have their own, like Olathe to our north has, I think, 2 or 3 that they pay for those services. The northeast cities, they share a co-responder and then they all pitch in and pay for that salary and benefits there. So now that the grant has expired, the sheriff's office has reached out for some assistance. Over the past 5 years, our program, we have increased the usage of the program. In '23, the 911 responses, we've used 23 times. They've reviewed about 76 of our reports and handled about 121 cases by phone. When you compare it to the other agencies with Johnson County and Gardner, we don't use it as much as they do. So I did not feel like we should have as much contribution. So we did negotiate down to for 2024, a $10,000 contribution. That would give the money toward that salary and benefits for the year of 2024. We will have to revisit this for 2025 because it will be 100% funded by the sheriff's office. And so they will be coming back to us and Gardner if we want to continue to use the co-responder program, and we will start this process over again. The monies that we'll be using will be coming out of the opioid funds, so it doesn't have an impact on our general fund. And I recommend that that you approve the agreement with the proposed costs and authorize the mayor and staff to enter the agreement with the sheriff's office to receive the benefits of the co-responder program. Any questions?
I don't have a question. I just want to say I'm really familiar with the program, being a mental health professional and working with PDs that have it. So I understand its effectiveness, especially showing up for calls with a clinician and how that works. So I just appreciate the data that you provided. That was really insightful for me. It sounds like you've already covered the funding with it and where those funds are going to come. So I'm in full support of it. Thank you.
You feel like we get a good bang for our buck?
I think that having them on any call is a value. Do I think 10,000 is a reasonable amount for what we use them for? Yes. I'm not sure of going above and beyond, and that's where we'll have those discussions for 2025, unless our numbers significantly change.
I know you probably don't have an exact number, but off the top of your head, do you have any idea about how many times that we've used the program just in this year? Yes.
This year, for '24, we've used it 27, I'm sorry.
That was 23, right?
Is it on there and I missed it?
Yeah, 23 is on there, but not 24.
Yeah, I put in, this might have been a typo because I said
Yeah, I saw
they've done
23 on there.
27 times and 23, that might have been for 24.
Okay,
But we are on the same pace.
okay.
So if you think about it, and this is one thing, and it's probably because the experience that I've had in dealing with the co-responder programs and some of the clinicians, if you think about it, like for instance, Chief, when your officers or you show up for a call and you have that mental health professional, can you talk a little bit about like, are there mental health sometimes issues involved when you're responding to a call that clinician then goes ahead and, are you finding it's effective? Do officers say this is a very needed thing and it helps, or what's your experience with it?
Yes, we do train our officers in CIT, which right now I'm going to, I think it's critical incident team, but I could be wrong on. Crisis intervention team. I knew I had the wrong acronym. There's another CINT as well, but at any rate, virtually all of our officers are trained in that program, which is a 1-week program where they actually work with mental health providers and learn a little bit about how do you react and how do you interact with those that are having a mental health crisis. Typically, the co-responder, when they do respond, the emergency aspect of it is stabilized because they are unarmed and there are civilian personnel, so they do not come into a call that is considered like a hot zone, if you will. But what really comes to the advantage is that they can have a conversation with the person who is having the crisis or the family members and help them with future resources. They also help with expediting the involuntary commitment process. During my time, this did not exist. When I was on the street, you would spend a full night, a full shift, waiting in the ER hospital, waiting for the paperwork to go through. This expedites it. They fill it out, they already send it to the hospital while the officer is en route. The officer then has to just basically turn the individual over to the hospital and they take it from there. So it can save a tremendous amount of time. The second thing that we have found to be very beneficial for any of our clients that are that we deal with on a repeat basis is that they have helped reduce the amount of time that we have to go. We have had some clients or some citizens and our residents in our community that we have spent a lot of time with, and we didn't have the co-responder to help. And so we were just repeating, rinse and repeat over and over. And we had a co-responder that came in, was able to make contact and connections, and we did not have a call from that person again for some time. So it's a very valuable program. I'm glad that we have access to it.
I'm just curious, how quickly do they respond if we're sharing? I mean, are the officers, is the officer having to wait for a while for that co-responder to show up, or?
Sometimes. There's only two, one during the day and one during the evening. And they typically work a Monday through Friday. So anything after 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and on the weekends, you do not have access. But we do have the crisis line. That's the way that I used to do it. You call the hotline and then you do the intervention over the phone. We do share it, so if they're already on a call in Gardner or in Johnson County, then they would not be available, and then we do the crisis line. So we do have a backup to it when they're not available. But when they are available, they're here pretty quickly. They actually work out of Gardner and the Johnson County Sheriff's Office right there. So they get to us pretty quickly.
Yeah, I would say for the roughly 300 per call from 23, it seems worth it. Like you said, if they double it next year, then it'd be a conversation. I don't know if 600 per call is really worth it, but I think it's good to finish out this year and then see how we can negotiate it for 25. So.
I think it's a benefit to our officers as well.
Yeah,
that are on the
save a
scene
lot of
as
time.
well, yeah.
Especially, we don't have the most in the field at one time, so we don't want to have them locked up for super long time dealing with stuff that we could pass off to this group. So
And the nice thing is that we can use a funding source outside of the general fund.
yeah.
No, I do have a question. When, let's say the intervention person shows up, is our officer allowed to leave, or do they have to stay on the scene the entire time with the intervention person?
On the emergency basis, they stay on the scene because we may have to transport.
Right.
They do follow up. So once that client enters the program, then there is follow up, whether that's coming in person or not. And if they feel like they need to have us, then we come by to stand by. But they also do other things, like if there is a death in a family, they have we have basically a stock card with our patch on it, and they will actually do a handwritten note to the family, offering services and offering condolences as well.
I guess what I was referencing is, let's say we have 2 officers out on the field, and one of them's being tied up with this. When the intervention person shows up, can that officer leave and go back to duty, or does he need to stay on site the whole time while?
Stays on site.
Okay.
But the follow-up is what,
Right.
there's a lot of follow-up that we can maybe hinder future
Right.
responses.
And that's the goal, is to reduce,
Follow up. Yes.
reduce those calls.
Yeah.
Get them the help they need.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, any other questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
Move to approve the agreement between the City of Spring Hill and Sheriff's Office of Johnson County, Kansas to receive the benefits of the co-responder program and authorize the mayor to sign the documents.
I second.
Do we need to say that amount in there? I know it's not in the motion, but should we say that amount?
Yes, please.
Okay. You want to redo it with the amount?
Move to approve the agreement between the City of Spring Hill and Sheriff of Johnson County, Kansas to receive the benefits of the co-responder program and authorize the mayor to sign the document for the amount of $10,000.
I second.
Got a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. Final item on the agenda is consider funding commitment for the SS4A Supplemental Planning and Demonstration Grant Application. And Mr. Massey, you have the floor.
Well, we saved the fun one for the end.
Yes.
The governing body over the last couple of years has indicated they wanted some attention for sidewalks. I've worked with HDR over the last couple of months to figure out if there's any grant funding available to go for. Taylor McHenry is here this evening, I believe, at the back. And we've located some grant funding that we think that we can go after. It's through the SS4A Supplemental Planning and Demonstration Grant. Within that, this allows us to go after some potential trail, maybe I should say trails and sidewalk.
Right, sidewalk, that's, 10-foot sidewalk.
10-foot sidewalks. It'll be down around 223rd Street, on Victory, and also on Webster, and tie back into the north side up by the Aquatic Center.
And it would be like a full loop, almost like a triangular loop.
Yes, and the exciting part about this is there's also state funding that helps reduce the local match. Did I shut off? Okay. So originally we were thinking the city's local match would be in the $110,000 to $115,000 area, and now we've realized after speaking with the state that that's going to be down closer to the $23,000 mark. So for nearly a $2.3 million project, this is a pretty good project for us for the return on investment of $23,000.
And then also a couple things on that. This will also create a crosswalk across 223rd on the south end. So we're proposing that as well. So that would be, and if you want to add anything more to that.
Correct. I'll let Taylor run with it.
Or yeah,
There's
your fires.
there's two other components to it.
Yeah.
Reviewing some of the streets within the community and the corridors, and also looking at additional sidewalk trail system throughout the community. So this is a big first step in trying to get a master plan in place to address some of our deficiencies and needs within the community.
Yeah, so to answer your question, Mayor, there'll be about 8 crossings that will be included in this project. Some of them will include what's called RRFBs, rectangular rapid flashing beacons, so it is somewhat protected. There'll be crosswalk markings and things like that too. After talking to Lane more about the city's needs, we decided to add a couple of additional planning documents that'll be supplemental to, I think we've talked about a couple weeks ago about the action plan that will eventually be conducted for the city. So it'll be kind of supplemental to that. And that'll be what's called a complete streets framework plan. So that's going to look at, what should city cross sections be, or street cross sections should be for certain street types, right? What should the cross section be for arterials, collectors, et cetera, so that it works with both pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists as well. So that'll be included on there as well. And then we'll have a separate bike ped network plan as well. That'll specifically look at how to form connections within your city that are that will also tie into what Johnson County has up north too, in Olathe and Overland Park. So,
and this is something I'm excited about because we've talked about trails for a long time. I mean, I've been talking about it for 3 years, trails and sidewalks, and this would be, with the bicycle and pedestrian network plan, that'll give us an opportunity to, like he said, to tie into the Johnson County trail system, or to pursue at least the possibility of that and what we need to do to get in that direction. And then also the streets framework plan, we're gonna assess about 5 miles a quarter streets with public involvement. So that'll be a big thing. And then just this project alone, if we can, like Lane said, if we can get a $2.3 million project done for out of pocket for the city for $23,000, that's not only a massive win, a good expenditure of money, but also create a whole trail. I mean, it's in town, but a trail, a full complete loop that people could utilize for walking, biking, running, all the above. Plus it connects the northern end of the city down to the southern end. You'd be able to get from down a sidewalk all the way from the north, all the way down through to Price Chopper and all the other businesses down there. So I think that's a huge win for the community as well. So, any other questions, comments, or if you had anything more? I don't know if I.
No, I like the enthusiasm. That's great.
What's the timeline for finding out if or what supplemental funding we get?
That's a good question. And the USDOT has been very quick about awarding projects under this grant program. So there was an initial round that was done in April. They sent out awards mid-May, which is extremely.
That's very fast.
Yeah.
Very quick. So there is some information on their website that says that they will have award announcements. There's been a couple rounds. There was another round that you could apply for in May. They expect those awards to be announced in August. And then they also mentioned something about October, them announcing the awards for this deadline that'll be next week for this application itself. So
That was my next question. What's the
expect-
deadline? Friday next week?
it is Thursday.
Thursday?
Next week at 4:00 Central.
And prior to that, we have to submit the application to the Kansas Infrastructure Hub for the state's local match. So we'll be working on that concurrently and submitting that application also.
Oh, I thought that's what we were talking about, the KIH piece of it. As far as timeline.
No, this is the
when it's
federal.
due.
Oh,
Right, we'll be submitting both to the federal and to the state.
Federal and state level.
Yeah.
Okay,
So the big chunk will come from federal, the local match assistance will come from the state, and then
right.
our small portion.
I was just trying to get a sense of when we might find out what funding we get and how quickly we can do this. That's where I was going with it, so.
I think if we apply to the state, we should have a letter of commitment, possibly in September. They have a meeting towards the end of September. And of course, that would be contingent upon receiving the federal bill, SS4A money.
Cool. So what were we awarded in January?
That was the original SS4A, which was for basically the 169 corridor and.
yes, yeah, it's for the safety action plan to look at the entire city.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that was like to get into it, and now we're going for the actual
Yeah, it's
fund.
kinda like-
First
Okay.
step that you have to do.
I was like, I
before
thought we had
you apply.
gotten something approved, but I wasn't quite sure what it was. Okay.
And on that one, we're still waiting on the contract to be signed by the federal government, but we think that'll be hopefully here in the next week or two.
Okay. Yeah, I think this will be really nice. I live on that side of town, and yeah, it is very tough to get around with no sidewalks at all. Pretty much once you hit 223rd all the way down to, almost South Street. But yeah, the only thing I would probably say is, I'd want to see any kind of spending for this come to us, the governing body, before, like, let's not spend any money on anything until we kind of know what we have. I know sometimes we'll jump the gun and get right of ways and things like that, but just kind of make sure it's coming to us before all the approvals are done. That'd be my only, because since it is a small amount, I mean, we could be going out and start acquiring right away, and then what if something changes and we don't get it and we have to back out of it? I just feel like we need to make sure everything comes through us for this, so.
Typically with grants, we refrain from doing any expenditures until
Okay.
the contracts are signed, or those are, would be non-participating,
Okay,
so.
all right.
And we're pretty optimistic about this one. They've, pretty good success rates with these grants, so we're, I think it'll be a great thing. So, and a 10-foot wide path that'll allow, somebody to be walking, somebody to be biking, and maybe even somebody running, simultaneously at the same time, so that'll be kind of.
Electrics are very popular, multi-purpose trail now.
Will it have a line down, do we do lines down the middle to keep it kind of two-sided, or how do you guys usually do those?
Don't
Yeah,
usually
but-
see them done that way.
I say it's usually just a path.
Yeah,
It's usually
Yeah,
just-
they're usually
I've
blank.
seen some with them, but that's not around here.
Yeah, I'm sure those exist for
Yeah.
sure, but most of the ones I've seen don't.
Don't.
Yeah, usually the 10-foot ones don't. If they're like the 6-foot one, sometimes they do.
Or if there's a visual impairment, if there's a sharp turn or
Yeah.
something like that, sometimes they'll have that to avoid.
And figure that cost
Problems.
is pretty high, because I know striping can get expensive.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I'd just like to commend staff and council for making this a priority. I think this is a huge need in the community. I think community wants it. Yeah, so I think this is a good thing, and I appreciate the work being done to apply for the grant.
And I did even have I've had multiple people reach out to me, but I did have recently, a young middle school girl sent a handwritten letter to me about trails and about the importance of running and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool that they're even the kids are reaching out to say, hey, we really need this in our community. So I made sure, reach back out to them and stuff. So yeah.
I wrote her a letter back.
I did too, although she probably hasn't got it yet because I just sent it. But I did write her one back that
I sent her one a couple weeks ago.
get in the mail. Probably I was out of town for a few weeks, so she should be getting it any day now. So that's kind of cool. I love it when kids and community members are getting involved and really care about their community and care enough to reach out and say, hey, either this isn't right or we'd like to see this or whatever. So yeah. Any other questions, comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
Move to approve the funding commitment and authorize the mayor and staff to execute a statement of funding commitment and submit all necessary paperwork for the Safe Streets for All SS4A demonstration grant.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. That ends formal council action at this time. We'll move on to announcements and reports. I don't really have anything new other than Fall Festival is coming up here soon. So with parade and all that fun stuff for that whole weekend. So just to encourage everybody to get involved and come out. And it's a lot of fun time for the whole family. So, Mr. Young.
No report.
Mr. Van Houten.
No report.
Mr. Peel.
No report.
Mrs. Feeback.
No report.
Mr. Massey.
No report.
Mr. Lau.
No report.
Chief Henson.
No report.
Mr. Burton. Remind me your last name. I should know it.
Abel.
Abel. I'm so sorry. Mrs. Abel.
No report.
Mrs. Wood.
No report.
Mrs. Dunn.
Man, I had one, but I feel like I need to say no report. Actually, I'll tell you really quick. Hopefully I won't steal Jacob's tonight. Just wanted you to know that the new Stormwater Fund, we had everything prepared and ready to go to Johnson County and Miami County. It's gone on to the clerk's office. They take the next step and it should be to them ahead of schedule. And the revenue generated from it is a little higher than we anticipated at $850,000. And so that is, I think, some kind of record that you can create a new utility and get everything going as quickly as we did, and it went off pretty well, I think.
Can I ask a question really quick about that report?
Sure.
Do we include that announcement, or that's gonna be happening? I know people have an opportunity to watch these meetings of us talking about it and stuff, but is it gonna be on Facebook, just so they don't get that first bill and
surprise.
you guys are getting all these calls and all that?
Yes.
I mean, are we communicating
We will.
on
Yes.
social media or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Website and
Yeah,
our mailer,
just wanna make
whatever.
sure.
We will put Kristen to work on that.
Not this one,
Not
the other one, yeah.
Sorry.
The other one.
Ms. Boxman will take care of it.
Okay.
Mrs. Jodes.
No report.
Mr. Spear.
No report.
With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
We have a executive session.
Oh, I'm just skipping right over it. We'll do something else before that. With that, we'll move into just a single executive session. And with that, I entertain a motion to move into executive session.
15 still good.
15 minutes.
Move the city council recess into executive session for 15 minutes to receive advice of council to discuss a request for benefit district financing pursuant to the attorney-client privilege, exception of the KSA 75-4319 B2 of the Kansas Open Meetings Act. The open meeting will resume in the city council chambers at 8:37 p.m. No formal.
50.
Oh wait.
Yeah, I got 8:35.
Oh, you're right.
Say that'd be really fast.
8:50 p.m. No formal action is anticipated following the session. Persons to be in attendance for the following: Lane Massey, City Administrator; Pat Burton, Community Development Director; Spencer Lau, City Attorney; and Tyler Ellsworth, Bond Counsel.
Second.
Got a motion second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0-0. We will see you guys shortly.
There for you meet all kinds of people. Do you know how to pick a new code? Super easy. I've never done it before. It's super easy. And you don't have to do that.
That's the worst.
And you can and keep those in the refrigerator. And I did that in Tupperware. I love it. Did you kick Spencer out?
I lost 2 attorneys.
We lost a whole crowd.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Let the record reflect that the governing body reconvened in open meeting at approximately 8:50. No votes were taken or decisions made during executive session. The discussion was limited to the subject stated. And with that, this time, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Chip's there.
He's probably not there.
Probably gone.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0-0. Have a good night, everyone.